The Evolution of Brexit. The first referendum period. The time is 19.57 million years ago. After years of volcanic activity resulting in the deaths of thousands of species, France, West Germany, Belgium, Italy, Luxembourg and the Netherlands all formed together to form a supercontinent known as the ECC. It is thought by scientists that the UK, also known as the British Isles, did try to join with the ECC in 19.63 million years ago, as the English Channel dried out. However, a French species of president by the name of Charles de Gaulle killed off any Britannian species that might have tried to enter the ECC at the time. Some scientists suggest that the languages of the French species and their dominance of a landlocked location as opposed to an island meant that they could more easily prey on the English and other British species, keeping them out of the ECC. However, 19.73 million years ago, due to a changing climate, the English Channel dried out for good, meaning Britain joined the European continent. However, species in France, Germany and other European nations meant the British species had to adapt to survive in this new world. Britain, before the merging of the continent, had two dominant groups of politicians: the left-leaning Labourites and the right-leaning Tories, or Tories as they're also known. But the drought in the English Channel led to all kinds of convergent evolution, with some Labourites being pro-European, others splitting off and evolving into their own species known as the Social Democratic Party. And the Tories also split massively during this time, with anti-European species being known as the Eurosceptics, and the pro-European species being known as the Europhiles. But nonetheless, the first referendum itself saw the death of over 67% of Eurosceptic species. However, 19.93 million years ago, the ECC became even larger into what scientists today call the European Union. 19.97 million years ago, out of the Labourites evolved the Blairites, or war criminals as they're also known. These species were strongly adapted to the European environment, overseeing the Good Friday Agreement, sharing more land with the ever-expanding European continent. 20.07 million years ago saw the rise of the Lisbonanians, a powerful species that gave the EU huge dominance, not just over the European continent, but over the whole world. But it was 20.1 million years ago from the genus Europhiles that saw the rise of the Camranosaurs, a species that evolved a large bony appendage known as a referendum that helped them wipe out many Scottish species such as the Alex salmon. However, from the Eurosceptics genus, the rise of another rival species known as Euclidontris and strongly dominant predators like Fragitherium were also dominating the British landscape and much more suited to life outside the European continent. This led to an eventual referendum period, accelerating the evolution of the Eurosceptics and Europhilia into what's known today as the Brexiteers and Remainers. Brexiteers and Remainers were bitter rivals during the referendum period, leading to a mass extinction of 52% of Remainers, leading to the Brexitarian period. But it is thought by scientists that the Remainers died out due to having too many limbs compared to the Brexiteers, who just had one for leave. Remainers were big, slow, powerful creatures with lots of limbs, making them good at dominating the landscape, but less effective when it came to persuading potential prey into an area where they could be hunted down, and they were much slower at hunting. The leavers of the time were much faster, sleeker predators and much better adapted to change, making them the better hunters. But the mass extinction of the Remainers did not leave the Remainers completely extinct. Instead, 48% of Remainers remained. Firstly, Genealogy evolved to dominate the legal landscape, which eventually led to the taking away of the dominance of the Brexitarian species and putting it into larger parliamentarian species' hands, many of whom were Remainers. Then a gangly creature known as a Maybot evolved dominance of the island. But crucially, this species was a Remainer, more dominant and numerous than the Brexiteers, but much slower and a worse hunter. Over time, the Remainers evolved the same bony appendage the Camerinosaurus once had. The referendum this time adopting a referendum which helped them remain in the European environment rather than leave it. The Brexiteers, on the other hand, split three ways and were much more varied and diverse. The Maybots hunted in groups, with the governing species at the time and eventually evolving the Checkers deal. The Boris Johnsonnois was a rival species to the Maybots. Scientists found they lived off a diet of checkers, hunting Maybots down, and with a large bony stump on the end of the tail, known as a no-deal. Then there was the Nycbolosaurus, who had a spiny back known as after, which helps them swim and trade across the English Channel, but was still part of the Brexiteer genus. But the European species still, to this day, dominate the continent. Scientists are trying to protect the Brexiteer species from the threat of referendums or the more dominant Remainer species, but it's thought that with a changing economic climate, the Brexiteer species are under threat. But do you agree with me? Join in the debate below and subscribe.